What a great few weeks in Luthersville we had, but it's time for the next adventure.
I was standing by my window. Adios and vaya con Dios.
But first, morning everybody. We are back at the Trammell House. We've been here almost 3 weeks now in a 175-year-old home. Now we're back doing a little more filming today because we're digging a little deeper into the history of this beautiful 175-year-old home in downtown Luthersville, Georgia. It was built in 1849 by Captain John William Trammell's father, they believe. The Trammells did not own slaves. However, Captain John William Trammell served in the Civil War. And if you'll notice, there's a lot of big trees that have probably seen as much or more than the house has seen. Got a big magnolia over here. And we spoke to the owner, Mr. Bob, and Mr. Bob tells us that the house hasn't continuously been owned by the Trammell family. In fact, it was owned by some other folks for several decades, and Mr. Bob got the opportunity to purchase the property, which he did. When he purchased the property, there was a second floor. He tells us that he believes originally it was just this first floor with no stairwell, and then the woman who he purchased it from had built the second floor. This picture, you can see the chimney is higher than the roof.
Yep.
But that's not the case anymore. The chimney is stopped right at the roof line now. And let's go back in to the Trammell House. Can't get enough of these doorknobs. The Trammell House now has a stairwell. Apparently, when the second floor was first built, didn't have a stairwell, just had a ladder that they would climb up and down with the ladder, but now it has a really cool stairwell, and the dogs bark up the steps because they hear something up there, I reckon. And it is a museum to stay in for sure, and you can stay here, very reasonably priced, sleeps 10 comfortably. And this indeed is a record player. We had the question about what it was. And then Mark opened it up. We found the crank, which does not work. It's just loose. It's not really connected to anything. But if you lift the top, indeed, this is an old record player. Including the old needle. Really cool. And I didn't think it was a record player simply because of this part down here kind of threw me off. But I guess this is kind of like a bellows for the speakers. Still don't know what the numbers are for. So if you know, please share that with us. And this was just a place, I guess, to let the sound out more. And indeed it is an old phonograph. And then of course they've got on top here this pretty neat old clock. I wish it chimed. That'd be neat if it chimed, but it doesn't chime. And again, there is one room on the first floor here. It has a shower and 2 double beds. So that could accommodate 4 or, you know, a family, a mom and dad and some kids. It's got this cozy living room with the, this TV is hooked up to an antenna but you can get a few shows off an antenna. And let's get into some detail about some parts of this home that I find really interesting. Here's one story that we heard from the owner. Now this is a beautiful old pie safe. It's got the tin windows with the little vent holes, little decorative tin pattern here, and it opens this way with a little lock, and inside reveals a beautiful little cabinet. And this is where the Trammells keep the dishes for guests to use. You know, a lot of people use paper plates. We've been using a lot of paper plates while we were here. But of course there are dishes to use if you'd like to use them. Now the story behind the pie safe is that Mr. Bob Trammell, apparently when he was a young child, he really liked sweets. And his grandmother, who was actually born in a house just down the road that has just recently been torn down, she would always prepare him like a finger cookie, a little tea cookie, and dry them, let them air dry in this pie safe. And he loved those cookies. He said he can remember her being in a wheelchair and still baking these sweet treats for him and storing them here for him to enjoy, because he liked sweets when he was a kid. Most kids do. He said that when his grandmother passed away, and his will was left him the pie safe, because she remembered him as being the one that enjoyed her sweet treats the most. So this is a piece that means a lot to the owners, and indeed is a beautiful antique pie safe. Pretty neat. Now this is the kitchen again. We're back in the kitchen. It does come with the refrigerator and a microwave, ice maker, which we've really enjoyed the ice maker. And then I wanted to bring you back in here again and show you the antiques in this room. Of course, we've got the old spinning wheel here. And that's important because, of course, the Trammells were cotton farmers. We've got some cotton right here. They were indeed cotton farmers. And there is an old plowing piece of equipment that you would put your horses on either side, or your oxen. There's some other stuff here. A meat grinder, I believe that is. An anvil. Iron anvil. And up here we've got this, which this, I believe, I think that's an old school pencil sharpener. Yes? Is it, guys? It reminds me of a pencil sharpener we used to have when I was a kid, but I don't know. It also could look like it'd be some kind of a drill. And then we've got this. I have no idea what this is for, or what it was. Ah, and a horseshoe.
That's one thing is for a curtain holder.
This?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look underneath it.
Okay.
Well, it may not be.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. Is this an old pencil sharpener?
That?
That. I don't know.
That I couldn't tell you.
I don't know if it's an old drill or an old pencil sharpener.
It might have been a meat grinder.
Could have been, well, there was a meat grinder down low here. And what if that's some sort of an anvil tool here? Like a firewood splitter?
Yep.
That is pretty heavy right there. Oh, and that is just a wrench. Random wrench. I'm showing you all around. This would have been, I wanted to say it would grab ice, but it's wooden, so I don't know if that's true, or maybe for firewood. And some old iron pots. And an old sifter. Really just a treasure everywhere you look. And an old dog and an old husband. And I wanted to show you guys these pictures. So here is some pictures from this house. This is the Albright store, built in 1886. I don't believe this structure is here anymore. This one we haven't seen anywhere, Pop. But this one, I think, is still the main drag in Luthersville. And when we go out in a little while, I'll get a picture of downtown Luthersville. I believe this is the store, Mark, where now you've got the AJ's Grab and Go. And then they've built another building here, maybe at the corner. Little Luthersville. Coley is very familiar in the Grantville area from built by a Mr. Coley. And here is a picture of the Strickland house. See if you can see that. We believe that one has been torn down, and we were told that this house has been torn down. This is on Strickland Town Road. And then here is the old lumber yard, and it's no longer here. And then here is an old picture of the Trammell House where we're at right now. And here is your train line. Been running right in front of the house. We would be probably about here, I believe. One side of the tracks to the other. And there is the old depot. Now the depot is still in Luthersville. It is a wedding event venue. Here is the old Methodist church where we have been. I showed you the cemetery and graveyard there. Here's the old gin, the old cotton gin. And then here is this is the type of thing that we saw over the fireplace, correct, Mark? That is like harnessing the yoke that harnesses the horses. And then this is like somebody with a mule. And this guy, he's holding a shotgun in this picture with his mule. And there's the Red Oak Creek covered bridge not far from here. This has a lot of history. It's also been a featured filming location for many productions. And the old cotton gin. Some other old church pictures. Bethel Church is still there, not far from here. Luthersville Methodist Church, before it burned several times. These could be some old family photos. And this is Bob Trammell's father, I believe. He showed us another picture of him at his office. And this building, I'm curious if it's still around. There is not a building in town that looks like this, but several buildings have been torn down or burned down. Here's someone who's gotten himself, that's not a deer, is it? Is that just a big deer right there?
Deer.
And then here's an old house with folks living. That looks like late 1800s. When driving beautiful Meriwether County, you'll see numerous chimneys still standing. Now you can picture a house like this that once stood there. A little bit more modern. And Mr. Bob Trammell, he does favor his descendants, his relatives from long ago. Jane Trammell was the first person interred at the Luthersville City Cemetery. And that's the end of that book. Pretty neat. Time for breakfast. Little Luthersville.
Your neighbor will get it later. And Sandy, this is where a circle will be unbroken. I'll kick him off. I was standing at the window, boiling cold and cloudy.
The Trammell House is located near many activities and things to do. Contact Sally if you're interested in all the things to do in the Meriwether and Coweta County areas of Georgia.
I didn't know. They don't have normal steps.
The next big step on our adventures.
Gonna lay out in the hot sun and roll me a burrito.
There you go.
And grab my guitar and play.